Welcome to Blessness, I'm Oscar the Saxon. Today is the day. Yes, it's the 18th of August 2021. Huh? It's my parents' 50th wedding anniversary, yes. In 1971, on the 18th of August, my parents got married, moved to a place called Toddington, and got this table and the chairs. Yes, this table is actually older than me. A lot of history here. You don't think you can see it. There's a spot here where my mother accidentally dropped some nail varnish remover, and we definitely can't see the marks where a lamp fell down on that spot there, and there's no way you can see the marks that some kid made with a fork. That aside, this is not about me or you today, it's about my parents. 50 years they've been married, and what have they done in that time? Well, obviously they produced me, and I said it's not about me, so let's get back to them. I would like to talk about the most precious gift that my parents ever gave me. Well, that's obviously my life, but that's not special. Hang on, how can that not be special? It is the most precious thing you get, but let's face it, we all get this from our parents. So, the most valuable gift that my parents ever gave me was my love, or is my love, for board games. Yes. As far as I can think back, my father always had a study, and as a little child, this was my most favourite room in the house. It was this mysterious room that was dim-litted and had walls covered with books and maps. I think they were maps. I couldn't read them, but all the same, this was a fantastic room. I loved it. Both of my parents are educated, intellectual people and value books a lot and have passed that on to us children. And it was my mother, for instance, who read The Hobbit to me when I was very young, and I feel that I have the privilege of having read that book to my children, and my youngest daughter being so influenced by it that the following week at school she actually asked her teacher, as a 7-year-old, or 8 I think, if she can tell the class a story. She'd drawn 10 pictures, put them up on the blackboard, and went through this story with them. And the teacher was flabbergasted. So, once again, I see that as inheritance from my parents. It has nothing to do with board games, has it? My father had these maps of Middle-earth, which had a huge influence on me. He also had a map of Snoopy's World War I, which I found very interesting. It's the love of books that I received from my parents. One of the very first books, Robin Hood. Obviously things like Lord of the Rings are not missing in my household. But also when moving, my parents bestowed books like these on me. They're not fantasy, but topics that really interest me. And even though these are books from the late 60s, early 70s, I still find them very interesting. My parents also had a lot of board games in their house, and it was a common thing to have friends every now and again around to play in the evening. As a very small child, I was a bit frustrated. I can't join in these big games with the grown-ups, but later on, not much later on actually, I was allowed to join in. Now here's the thing, if on the board game it says it's for children 10 on, you don't have to wait until your child is 10. I was playing board games at the age of 6 that were not designed for people who were at least 8 or 10. It's what you teach your children. The earlier you get them into this, the much better it is. And board games cannot be overvalued. You learn a lot of social competence and problem solving and all sorts of things like that. Obviously not just board games where you roll dice and you move and you roll dice and you move and you've got no influence on what you do. But that's what you start with and you expand. My parents had and still have a huge collection of board games, as I do here. And once again, this is something I'm really proud of having passed on to my children. Perhaps their love isn't as fanatic as mine, but it's definitely there. My parents have moved on to a place called Cyprus. We started off in England, all of us were born there, moved to Germany, And my father was always talking, or for a lot of years he was talking about, he can't understand people that want to retire to this warm island where you've got unpleasant weather. He would like to retire to a nice cool place like Iceland. And he was also saying that he would like to retire at the age of 40. Well, 7 years ago, when I was 40, my father finally retired. Yes, I've now told you how old I am. And my parents now live on an island called Cyprus, which is slightly warmer than Iceland, yes. All the same, they've moved on, and we don't see them quite as often as we like, but we do have this thing. It's a sort of flat palantir, okay? I can look into it and see and talk with my parents. It's not activated this way, right? It's the same magic that we're using now, and it doesn't always work at their end. I've got to get some wizard to look into that at some point. But anyway, we can keep in touch with this thing. It's great. Not quite as much as I'd like. Back in the days, up to 7 years ago, when they were still living in Munich, we would visit more often, and it was a fixed thing for my children that if you go to Grandma and Granddad's, we have to play Cluedo, a board game you possibly know, Ulcers, a board game you most likely do not know, and a few other things, but those were the two main things. Their parents have board games, yes, but Grandma and Granddad have special board games and we have to play them when we're there. There was one situation, my youngest son was 6 or 7, I think, and we were only there for 4 days, a long weekend. And I'm telling him, right, we're going to pack our stuff this evening because we're leaving very early tomorrow. And he goes, but we haven't played Cluedo yet. I said, look, you literally spent most of the day yesterday playing Take the Brain with Grandad, your uncle and me. Take the Brain is also a board game you most likely will not know. It's great. It's a fun sort of chess thing. A bit easier if you find chess complicated. Seriously, look it up. Go on eBay. If someone's saying it, get it. It's a great game for 2 people only though. This was so ingrained in my children. We go there, we've got to play Cluedo. And it's not sort of, it's a task we've got to do. It's, yeah, we're going to do that because that is part of visiting Grandma and Granddad. Just like the food. There are a few really great stories that we can tell here, and I could just go on and on and on forever. What I'm saying is my parents have been married now for 50 years, which is half a century. That's a great thing. And they've got a nice cushy place in Cyprus at the moment, which is also nice for them. Due to restrictions, we can't visit as much as I'd like. And one of the main things that I got from them in these 50 years, as I said, is my love for board games. It's something they've not given up. They don't play as much as they used to, possibly. They have other interests, and there are a lot of other interests that I could name. Archery, for instance, that I definitely got from my father. I said, my mother read The Hobbit to me when I was, I don't know how small. I think it's before I came to Germany at the age of 4.5. A lot of things I've received from my parents, but the big thank is my love for board games. Right, so as I said, this is not about me, is it? I thought I would like to commemorate this special day with a special unpacking video of a sword. And then I thought, hang on, that doesn't make sense actually, because especially considering the pacifistic attitude of my mother, has nothing to do with that. So instead, I thought I'm going to commemorate this day by doing an unpacking video of these 3 packets of Magic the Gathering Dungeons and Dragons style, or edition actually. Which also doesn't really make sense because this is not a board game. I've played a few card games with my father, but not my mother, these collectible card games that is. I don't think my father's ever played Magic the Gathering. All the same, I'm pretty sure they're to blame that I love this stuff. Thanks, Mum and Dad. So it's been a while since I've opened Magic packets, but let's get straight to it. Excited. We start off with a token in the packets these days. Okay, and the first 10 or so should be commons. You recognise that they have black emblems and the uncommons have silver, the rares have gold ones. So we've got 1, 2, I'm not going through the single cards right now. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And as I said, that's silver. Honking Bugbear is an uncommon. Ray of Frost is an uncommon. Eccentric Apprentice is an uncommon. And the rare is the Lair of the Hydra, which is a land. If you control 2 or more other lands, Lair of the Hydra enters the battlefield tapped, right? You can tap it and you get a green mana, or you can pay X and a green mana until end of turn. Lair of the Hydra becomes an XX green Hydra creature. It's still a land, and X can't be naught. So if you pay 1 green and 2, then it's a 2/2 green creature. If you pay 10 to the additional 1 green, then it's a 10/10 creature. We got a plains, which is a normal country, and we've got a token, as said. Okay, so cut this off. There's going to be the full unpacking as link at the end of this video. Right, that aside, happy anniversary, Mum and Dad. Hope you're having a great day. I'll be seeing you later. And to everyone else, get your interest up in board games and stories. See you next time.